Hello and welcome to Move Live, presented by Circa Sports. Ryan Noonan joined here, as always, by Connor Allen, continuing our divisional preview series here today with the AFC West. Connor, what's going on? How are we doing today?
Great. AFC West is a fun division. Couple teams in here that I think could move big time. I mean, I think one of your favorite teams in the league right now is in here too, based on some of our early talks. So excited to break this one down and see where it goes.
One of your old favorite teams in real life football is definitely a team that I have some interest in. It is a loaded division, really kind of three teams cleared towards the top, and then Las Vegas Raiders hanging out a little bit below. We'll remind you if you are just joining us for the first time, we've been knocking out, this will be the last of the AFC previews. So you can check out, again, Move the Line wherever you listen to podcasts, Move the Line on YouTube if you want to get our thoughts on the East, North, South. Those are already in the books. We've also been talking about some of the early win total markets, some of the futures, awards, all those things. Those shows are all in there over the last couple of weeks as well. You can subscribe wherever you listen. Thumbs up on the video. If you're watching on YouTube, goes a long way in helping support us and all the things we're doing at 4 for 4. Let us know who you think is going to be the AFC West winner this year. We'd love to hear from you guys too. Before we jump into it, Connor, I'll let the folks know what's going on with our friends over at Circa Sports and how we've partnered with them this offseason.
Yeah, today's show is sponsored by Circa. They have Circa Millions, they have Circa Survivor, multiple season-long contests there, $1,000 entry live in Vegas. You enter there, and then you get a proxy, and then you can enter from wherever. There's a bunch of recommended ones. We can help you out with that as well. We will be live in Vegas end of August for Circa Entry Weekend. There's going to be a whole Radio Row thing. There's a bunch of open bars. You can go to the Stadium Swim. Should be a really sick weekend and a good chance to just have some fun and enter some contests. So going to be firing a bunch myself, probably one or two with Noonan, a couple with some other guys. It's going to be a great time. So definitely going to be a good contest. No rake and 10 entry max per person. So great
Love that.
contest.
Great contest. More information in the show notes if you have those and you can't get those questions answered through that. Like Connor said, hit us up. We'd love to help make sure that it's nice and easy for you. Again, want to remind you if you want to get all the stuff that we're doing this season at 4 for 4, you need to go to 4for4.com. On the top, there is a deals tab. You can find how to get a free subscription. If you want to get, there's one that actually allows you to get our betting subscription, which gives you access to all the picks along with all the fantasy stuff. So if you want to do anything on like the FFPC side or just, win your home league, you want access to all the tools, all the data, everything we do at 4 for 4, you want to take advantage of that through our friends over at ReBet. There's a promo code there. Promo code's 4 for 4. Just again, hit us up if you have any questions. There's a bunch of different deals depending on what level of subscription you want. We recommend the $10 one through ReBet because again, it gets you access to all the betting stuff too. But check out the deals tab there on 4for4.com. Again, let us know if you have questions. AFC West loaded, Connor. Down year for the Kansas City Chiefs. Chargers had their standard chargering injury-wise. The Broncos did what they continue to do, which is exceed their win total by a substantial amount year over year. And the Raiders had the number one pick, and maybe have the number one pick again. We'll see. But obviously a tough slate for them having to kind of handle 6 games in the division with these behemoths. But we'll start with the Chiefs. 10.5 is the win total there. They are right around plus 180. You can shop to get the division prices, obviously. But again, coming off of a incredibly strange 6-11 season, injuries, poor performance to begin with, and then obviously losing Pat Mahomes just kind of tanked their end of the season, which should probably worked out pretty well for them because they were trending to not make the playoffs anyway, and then didn't have to worry about winning any games they didn't need to with an ACL tear. ACL tears nowadays, it's just not like it was even 5 years ago. It's like ACL tear in November or December, like you might come back next year, but like we shouldn't expect anything. And now it's like a 7-month injury, depending
Yep.
on the position. It's crazy. It looks like Mahomes is going to be fine. Again, they are like minus 205 to make the playoffs. They are, like I said, Ryan, 180 or so to win the AFC. Again, you can find better stuff than that. But, wild to see double digits pricing on them to win the Super Bowl too, compared to where they've been. They had a busy offseason, mostly from an exodus standpoint, more so bodies going out, the bodies coming in. What do you think about the Chiefs?
Yeah, some big highlights here. Eric Bieniemy back as offensive coordinator, replacing Matt Nagy. I think that could be pretty interesting. Specific focus he mentioned on sequencing and specialty designs. and focusing on the run game. And they obviously went out and got Kenneth Walker too, probably the best running back that they've had since I don't know what rookie, maybe Kareem Hunt or Jamal Charles, I would say maybe
Jamal
honestly,
Charles. Yeah.
probably in that range. I would guess, and so that's really exciting. The Mahomes fully cleared for training camp has been practicing a ton, moving around a little bit. I don't know if you've seen some of the training camp clips, but
Yeah.
moving pretty well after torn ACL and LCL in Week 15. And then they also acquired Justin Fields from the Jets. So a couple of moving pieces there. But I think, as you alluded to, the defense has a lot of moving parts after the trade for trade away of McDuffie, and then a couple other moves there. I don't know if you want to touch on any of the defensive stuff because they obviously they did draft Mansour Delane. They did add Peter Woods along the defensive line too.
Yeah, I mean, I think Steve Spagnuolo was probably one of the like. It's just I don't know if he's just not interested every year, but I think he just, and in terms of him being wanting to get like a head coaching job because he's just one of the best defensive head coaches in the league and continues to get more out of his talent. They've actually done a tremendous job in the last like 4 or 5 years at drafting and developing in the secondary too. So like of all teams to lose what they lost, you're losing your two perimeter corners a little bit tricky. Now, obviously, you add Mansour Delane, top of the first round equity there. Noel Williams has played a little bit here and there the last couple of years, has been pretty good. Kader Koa, they brought in to be the nickel corner, has been good, dealt with injuries in Miami, but like a big loss for the Miami secondary. Didn't play at all last year. Um, lose a free safety. In Alohi Gilman steps in from the Chargers in the division. Like they're just going to be okay. They still need to find pass rush outside of Karlaftis. They kind of need some of the other guys that they've drafted in the last couple of years to really step up. A lot falls on Chris Jones from the interior. They love to like blitz off the edge and blitz their corners and blitz Drew Tranquil from the linebacker position. So again, Spags kind of gets more out of his defense than what they have from a pieces standpoint. I think it's a step back, but I still think that they're going to be mostly fine defensively if they can stay healthy.
Yeah, I think it's a good summary of the defensive side. Offensively, it's crazy because Xavier Worthy looked like he was going to be in for a good year, gets injured super early in the season. Rashee Rice has his own offseason issues, spends a month in jail, and is now out of jail. He is running like I'm sure you saw the training camp videos. Looked like he was running with a piano on his back, just really really slow. Now that doesn't
Yeah.
really matter that much because he's obviously kind of just like a slot merchant. It seems like at this point,
Yeah, he also doesn't
and
run very far typically in
yeah,
games either. So
yep, that's totally fine. Travis Kelsey looks like he just ate an entire wedding cake prior to showing up to training camp, which he did. So good for
yeah.
him. Obviously, outside of life, that's awesome. I'm a little concerned about how this all pans out. They did draft another guy too, or they added was it Cyrus Jones, I believe, or
Cyrus
Cyrus
Allen.
Cyrus Allen. That's who it is. He's been playing really well in training camp. Reportedly got injured, now is back. It looks like so he's totally fine. Tyquan Thornton might play a role, but the reality is like these guys just don't inspire a ton of confidence. And with Mahomes starting the season, I think a little bit slow. I think they're going to see a ton of Kenneth Walker early, just jamming the ball to Kenneth, and we might see 20 plus carries for him whenever they can, whenever like early on in the season, just to get Mahomes back into, the scheme of things. Week 1 against Denver, and then you got Indianapolis, Miami, the Raiders, and then the bye. I mean, just 3 out of the 4 games, perfect setup in my opinion for them to just not really use Mahomes at all. Maybe a good prop angle could be some attempts under for Mahomes, attempts over for Walker, reception unders for receivers outside of maybe Rashee Rice, who again might just catch 5 balls with a 5-yard A dot. Yeah, I don't know. Those are some angles that came to my mind here.
Yeah, you don't want a week 5 bye, but I think the Chiefs will probably like a week 5
Yeah.
bye. I think that probably sets up pretty well for them, like you highlighted there. Allows them to kind of get a feel for it. And again, remember this team finished. They weren't last in the division because the Raiders were there, but again, in terms of just strength of schedule, it's a lot softer than it typically is because finishing third in the division makes things a little bit lighter. So that helps for them. Typically, they would get a gauntlet of unique three and playing everyone else's number one seeds. So that makes it a little bit easier there. Um, yeah, I feel like it's a nice bounce back. 10.5 feels really optimistic. It's never a train I want to really run in front of. I feel like we took a stand on that a couple years ago. We all thought the Chiefs were, maybe a little bit inflated, and I think they probably just did one of their like 13-4, 14-3 type things,
Yep.
and you could probably do it again. I still think we get mystified by Mahomes' magic, even though it's just not really been there as much in the last couple of years. So again, I think it's a really competitive team. I think they're probably closer to the other two teams in the division than they are maybe running away with it. So I like the other two teams in the division a little bit more. That doesn't mean I think that the Chiefs can't win it. I kind of like those prices a little bit better if I was jumping into anything here on the futures market.
Yeah, I would agree, and they're all priced pretty similarly. You're looking at we'll say, you know, DraftKings here. I think we're looking at plus 160 Chiefs, plus 190 Chargers, plus 225 Broncos, and then 20 to 1 Raiders. So three price pretty close, and then one long shot here. So I think, yeah, Chiefs plus 160 is not really my favorite. I think they could easily lose week one to the Broncos, to be honest. That wouldn't be all that surprising to me, even though they're at home.
Yeah. The receiver thing is thin too, right? And you look at, Tyquan Thornton is going to be involved, and
Yeah.
that's with no injuries, right? And then once you get past Rice and Worthy, who are not pillars of health, and obviously Rice staying clean off the field, Travis Kelsey, like just going to be a lot of Noah Gray, and we're going to have to learn about Jalen Royals pretty quick. Like that, those names come up pretty quick. And like Mahomes, yeah, he can elevate those talents, but again, just gets harder when you have such a top heavy roster. Same thing like when I look at the pressure in like the defensive line. Like if something happens to Karlaftis, this is a pretty bad pressure unit. Then like a lot falls on Spags having to dial up some stuff that is kind of unaccounted for and exceeds the talent that they have on paper. So a little thinner than normal.
Yeah, and,
Uh,
and also too, I think we're noting like Spags historically has had units that during the regular season have been legit bad. Like sometimes bottom three run defenses from time to time, not as often secondary wise. Are they going to have like terrible pass defense? But it's happened to be not good, and then they turn it up in the playoffs and find a way. But regular season, I mean, they've gotten exposed a couple of years. I mean, in the last since he's been a coach for them.
yeah, yeah, he expects good at what he does. I think he's got a lot on his plate this year. So again, maybe the edge is like, I don't know, they do a coordinator of the year market. Like books never post that. I feel like we can get that like late in the year, so we can't like speculate early on coordinator of the year or whatever they end up calling that award. But you see an 11-win, 12-win Chief season. I think Spags was in his bag. He deserves a lot of credit for that. But again, he could be tied to Andy Reid, so therefore disqualified, just like all the other coach of the year type things. Who knows? But that's an angle I guess we can explore in season.
For sure.
All right. Next thing we're going to the Chargers. They are 9.5 on the win total, right around 185, 190 to win the West. You got to lay a pretty good bit here, minus 170 or so for them to make the playoffs. 16, 17 or so is the number for them to win the Super Bowl. I think it's easy to be encouraged by this roster. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh returns. We're excited about new OC Mike McDaniel replacing Greg Roman. I think it's obviously a pretty significant upgrade. We've highlighted some of that in some earlier shows where Mike McDaniel just might be better on this role, right? Like getting someone in their role and having them do it really well might be a better position than him having to like lead an entire organization. And we'll see what happens there. Jesse Minter loss is not nothing. I think that's a pretty big one because that's another coach that's done a lot with, I wouldn't say little, but I think that this unit with the Chargers has exceeded the talent in the last couple of years. Now Minter is left to be the head coach of Baltimore. Chris O'Leary, internal hire, who was basically bouncing around with Minter and Harbaugh at like Western Michigan and all over. So he's been part of the organization, part of the product. He's upgraded now to the DC. Look, the schedule's brutal. Travel's brutal. Rest advantage, all that stuff is brutal. Otherwise, it's a lot to like on paper about the Chargers.
Yeah, I think I especially like the McDaniel hire. You touched on it a little bit there. He didn't have the best stint in Miami, but there were a couple of years, especially early on, where he kept this offense afloat, I think. Never really had a great offensive line, but was able to make the most out of the running game, was able to make the most out of Tua, and kind of more of a timing-based offense. And now I think with Justin Herbert, he has the arm talent to do a little bit more. And if the offensive line is healthy, he does have the talent up front to be able to maybe allow Herbert to take a little bit more time. So he doesn't need to have the quick timing based short offense that Miami ran through forever because they just didn't have any other options. I mean, they had nothing else that they could do really. So I think there's a lot more multiplicity and options here for this Dolphins offense here. And if you look at the motion rate, McDaniel's offenses were 73% from 2022 to 2025. Chargers under Roman were under 50%. And I do think getting the ball out quick could be helpful from time to time, anyways. But again, I just think there's more options for this Chargers offense. Also, too, the scheme change coming in the running game, I think could help Amari and Hampton. They added Keaton Mitchell from Baltimore, who I think could play a big role in the receiving game here. They've already talked about that a ton. I think he could be kind of just like I don't know, like a Joker type of guy, third down back. Maybe they put him in, occasionally, or maybe have both of them on the field and he just runs a lot more different routes and motions out. I think he could be kind of a fun player for them. They're going to use from time to time. Probably gonna be pretty frustrating in betting and fantasy, but it's going to be certainly an alt or nothing guy. I think.
We'll swing for some alt combined yards, longest rush,
Yes,
longest reception type stuff for sure because he's explosive. Yeah, it's
totally. And
the
I think Ladd and QJ played really well at the end of last season. They seem to really like him. I think that he's going to be continue to get scheme targets, but it seems like Ladd McConkey has gotten all the talk this offseason as being a bigger part of the offense after taking a little bit of a back seat from time to time with Keenan Allen in the picture last year. I think that we're going to see, yeah, again, a lot more Ladd this year. So who the other third receiver is, not particularly sure. They Aronde Gadsden was great from time to time last year, but since then they added David Njoku, they added Charlie Kolar, who have both gotten way more buzz than Gadsden this offseason for one reason or another. Again, I don't really know. Kolar's mostly been like a blocking tight end his entire career, so we'll see on that. Honestly, the tight end situation is very much a wait and see for me. But overall in this offense, I'm pretty bullish. I think this is by far the most talent that McDaniel's had in an offense outside of maybe like peak Miami days with Tyreek and Waddle and everything clicking there. And I mean, they were a top 5 offense at that point. So
from like a team level though, the tight end thing almost doesn't matter. Like we can maybe find some ways
totally.
in season to like leverage the guy that's barely running any routes, and you can hammer unders and put one of those under 1.5 reception like
Oh
you
yeah.
know Connor Allen special
Salivating.
under 9.5 receiving yards or something like that. Just absolutely gross.
Yep.
Probably hit at like a 70% clip. So, but from a team level, it's fine, right? Because they'll figure it
Yeah.
out and they'll get something out of the tight end position. Most important piece is just we played almost an entire season without Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, and that's just should be a non-starter, and it kind of was. The fact that that team still was as competitive as they were makes me think that they can maybe handle some of this difficult rest schedule stuff. It starts out really easy, and then they just play basically anyone who's good or projected to go to the playoffs. They run into for like the next handful of weeks after starting with a really really soft start. So, I think there's optimism to be had. It's going to be a season for Justin Herbert to answer the questions. There's just kind of this, like the football nerd community loves the underlying metrics of Justin Herbert, the ball knowers, I guess you would say, and then the other people are like they don't actually know ball. Justin Herbert's very average and like completely overrated, and I think that's I lean more to the I think he's really good, and I think we have an offensive coordinator that can, I think, drag that out. Again, really hard to be really good when you are the pocket's collapsing on you in like 1.5 2 seconds every time. It's impossible. And good football teams, especially when you get to the playoffs, are gonna, make that shine. They're gonna shine a big bright light on it, and teams did. So now they have depth because these guys that had to play a bunch of snaps last year are now backups. So that helps because we get forced in. It's not good, but at least they have some reps in the system.
Yep. No, 100%. My player model, interestingly enough, doesn't really have the Chargers ranked super high, which I think is kind of interesting. I think I'm higher on them than what like player model has them as basically like a slightly above average team. I would have guessed they'd be closer to Denver and Kansas City, which are both like 3-point favorites against an average team. So I don't know. I think maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on McDaniel, but I do think that matters. And it's tough. I think the grades that maybe some of these players got last year are not indicative of who they are because of when you lose half your starting offensive line and you're in a different system and all these things happen, it just makes everyone play worse.
Defense, I think, is good enough. It's not a great defense. They have bodies at edge, which you like to see. They got enough experience in the back end. We'll see. There's some jobs to be sussed out, like safety and stuff like that. But like Derwin James is still awesome and plays that star role where they put him in the slot, they'll blitz him. He does everything. Still a tremendous player, even though feels like he's been in the league forever. Khalil Mack still gets it done at his advanced age at this point. Like still really good football player. Sets the edge, still collapse the pocket, get to the quarterback. We'll see what they get out of Akeem Essador. I think Akeem Essador is like a perfect landing spot for him. Whereas you're talking about like an older prospect that teams were reluctant to spend first round capital on. But I think a really good football player, and if you don't care and you're kind of in a win now mode, like Mesidor to the Chargers was a great landing spot. So like that here for them. I think they got a bunch of bodies up front. They'll be better at stopping the run this year too if they could stay healthy. So again, enough to be competitive, assuming that Chris O'Leary is just not a complete donkey, and that Jesse Minter was doing pulling all the strings here. I'm optimistic. Again, hard to avoid the schedule stuff though, but the range of outcomes here, like if someone's like, "Hey, this is the Super Bowl team," like I get it. It's a bridge a little too far for me, but I understand. I would be surprised, I guess, if it's not a playoff team. So, but again, I got to lay minus 165, 170 right now to back that up, and I'm not going to do that.
Nope, not that into them.
Yeah. All right, team I like the most would definitely be the Denver Broncos. 9.5 win total, round 2-1, maybe a little bit better to win this division. Again, minus 140 or so to make the playoffs. You can get them at almost 10-1 to go to the Super Bowl, which they definitely should have done last year. 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. Again, some of the regression work that people do. I know Cleve TA does a lot of this and is really good at what he does. I think his preview is something that people should read if you're into the show like this. They naturally want to ding Denver because they continue to exceed their win total by 3 or 4 wins every year, and just the models will tell you that you can't continue to do that. I just want to tell you that maybe the odds are just not efficient, and we keep missing the mark on how good this football team is. When you think about all the offseason changes that we typically have, when you look at like the depth chart of the Denver Broncos, they're basically running it back on the first and second level on both sides of the ball, except they went out and added Jalen Waddle, who's a significant upgrade to that wide receiver room. Like we touched on earlier, I think allows everyone else to slide down a spot and kind of get in their natural position. Maybe you had Cortland Sutton, who's probably a better wide receiver 2 than a wide receiver 1. Well, now as a wide receiver 2, he's perfect. If you want to figure out if it's going to be Troy Franklin or Pat Bryant or Marvin Mims or whatever is going to be wide receiver 3, 4, those guys all fit there. They don't have to be the wide receiver 2. You don't need much out of an Evan Ingram. Running back, bringing on J.K. Dobbins is really good last year when he played. But now AJ or RJ Harvey's back, and he doesn't have to be the guy. Like they could figure it out for as long as Dobbins can stay healthy. Great offensive line, continuity there. Defense is really good. I like the Broncos, Connor.
Yeah, I don't have too much to combat that, right? I think it was interesting last year. We did see Peyton hand over play calling duty to Davis Webb, which I thought was pretty interesting. I think his first time in his career, which was maybe good for him. I think the play calls were coming in late for a while. There was some weird stuff, if I remember correctly, last year there. Bo Nix obviously coming off a fractured ankle, which he fractured on the game-winning overtime drive against Buffalo. Jarrett Stidham started the loss against New England and still almost got it done, 10-7 home loss. I think the J.K. Dobbins stuff matters for sure. He's going to see a lot of work. I think R.J. Harvey is going to be involved, obviously, but to what extent, not really sure there. And nail on the head with the wide receivers. The offensive line, is ranked really highly in most grades, and I think should be kind of a starting point for this offense in general. So, yeah, you're looking at a good to great wide receiver core, a quarterback that started playing better, an offensive mind at Sean Payton that's awesome, and then a defense that's among the league's best. So you're getting this team as probably, not the sexy team. Like they're just a really good team on paper. They don't have anyone really outside of maybe, I don't know, Jalen Waddle or Pat Surtain that you're really super excited about, that you think is a player that is, I don't know, electric, I would say, in terms of the league. But I think that's enough here. Plus 225 to win the division, I think is pretty solid look. And over, what is it, 9.5 wins, 10.5 wins right now we're looking at.
Yeah. 9.5.
Yeah. I don't think either of those are bad. This is just a really good football team. So excited to see what that looks like this year. Early season schedule is, I think not that bad. Week 1 against the Chiefs is obviously not ideal for them. But
Wouldn't
then
you
they get
want them then? Wouldn't you want one of your two Chiefs games to be Mahomes' first game back after an ACL injury at
I
home?
would, and it's interesting because the Broncos season here is wild.
It is.
They start as 2.5 point dogs against at the Chiefs, and then they're 2.5 point favorites against the Jags, but good Jags team. That should be an interesting game. And then Rams, Niners, Chargers, Seahawks, all in a row. Two of those games back to back on the road with San Francisco and the Chargers. But then gets dramatically easier because then in the next stretch they have the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Raiders twice, the Dolphins, the Jets.
Mhm.
So this is a very much a team that, again, if you want to play the schedule, maybe they are, I don't know, 3-3 entering week 7, or even 3-4 entering week 8 after the Seahawks. That's definitely possible, or even worse. And then a good team to buy low on because they're going to be in some really tough, close games early on, and then probably just pound some teams like in the middle part of the season.
Yeah, and then you finish with some other AFC contenders with Buffalo, New England, the Chargers there to kind of finish. But yeah, there's some wins in the middle of the schedule for sure. Yeah, I mean, look, they were what 11-1, 11-2 in one score games. Yeah, that's not great. That regresses a lot. But you know who also wins a lot of one score games? Good football teams who are well coached, who are good on both sides of the ball, right? So I'm not going to say that they're not going to have some regression there. But like if you would have just made a bet on their under last year because you thought they can't exceed their win total again, then you lost the money because they most certainly did. Now there's some off the field stuff with Jonathan Cooper, which matters for them at edge. They got to have whether it's Jonah Ellis or Q Robertson, Tillman. They got Sanders. They got some guys behind them. Like none of them are like super proven, but like Jonathan Cooper's really good, working opposite of Nick Bonito. So they kind of have Cooper got arrested like twice in like a week or two. It's kind of rough, not great. Like speeding and then domestic abuse. I think something. It's not great. It's still allegedly. It's all still sussing itself out. But you kind of need him. But to your point, like it's just kind of a collection of guys. It's not a bunch of superstars. I think Nick Bonito's awesome, but like the stuff that I do, Nick Bonito continues to like be an outlier of like my model wants to bet under on Nick Bonito because he continues to get sacks and convert sacks at a way higher rate than almost anyone else in the league. But he did it 2 years in a row as well. So like I'm not running in front of that train again. Maybe he just is really good at that. Situational pass rusher. Like Zach Allen's really good in the middle, like super underrated, gets a ton of pressure. It's just a team that like because you don't have a guy that you can lean and stop, you kind of have to get a bunch of one-on-one matchups and the good football players and a good scheme and a good defensive coordinator with Vance Joseph, who also could be a head coach again if he wanted, but like just seems to be in his lane as a DC. So I mean, they drafted a slot corner, out of Texas, and Jade Barron didn't get anything out of him last year, and he's probably not even going to get the feel out again this year. But I think he's actually pretty good when he played last year. But they don't even need him, so like it's just a bunch of depth all over the place here. There's just a lot of room for things to not go well for them, and they're still just going to be probably really competitive and beat up on the middle part of their schedule. So 2-1, I'm in on them. And 10-1 to be the AFC champs or so, I think is it's a bet that I like quite a bit. So
Yeah, like all those, and yeah, I don't know, maybe back on the Broncos. I think this makes sense.
yeah, they're good. The Raiders are not. They might be better, but they're not good. 5.5, 6.5 is the win total. Shop that around. Like you said, 20-1 or so to win this division. 6-1 to make the playoffs. Big numbers to win the AFC and the Super Bowl. Not, I don't think their goals, and no one should expect that. But again, new head coach, new coaching staff. They needed a lot of change. Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly out. Clint Kubiak coming over from Seattle as the OC to be the new head coach. Rob Leonard, internal promote as well from Patrick Graham leaving to go to Pittsburgh. So we'll see what happens there. Tom Brady's heavily involved. I don't know. I'd have been excited about that 5 years ago. I'm worried about my guy. Used to be super normal. It's hard to be super normal when you're like really rich and famous. Probably not enough people telling him no these days, but we'll see. We'll see if his ability to build a football roster and what they could do at quarterback here with obviously Mendoza. And when that happens, we can talk to me about the Raiders and what do you think?
Yeah, the Brady's continue to say that it's going to be Mendoza's benched all season, and that's going to be Kirk Cousins for a while. And now, they signed like an insanely massive contract that's really just a 1 year, $11 million contract. They can basically just dump him whenever they want to. It's really interesting because we see this every year. Sometimes we try and pick out points in the schedule where we think makes sense for them to kind of put in a rookie quarterback, or they'll just like naturally get put in based on losing too many games in a row. And usually, I don't think we're like all that good at it, but generally, we have a pretty good range of. So, like last year, the Giants, we kind of knew that Russ just wasn't going to make it. It was one of those things that the schedule was so tough. We're just he played really well against the Cowboys. Honestly, I mean they and he still just didn't make it. What 3 4 weeks, something like that. I
Yeah,
think did he get subbed out at halftime in the next game or the game after, something like that. It wasn't good.
it was not good.
There's just only so long that you can last if you're a veteran quarterback losing games. And so what's interesting though is they play Miami week 1, who I think they are a good bit better than. They're 3 point favorites against Miami. I don't mind that at all at home. But then you have, on the road against the Chargers, you're on the road against the Saints, then you have the Chiefs, on the road against the Patriots, the Bills, and then the Rams. Just, I mean, they're going to be 1-6. It's just a really tough to envision anything else, barring Clint Kubiak coming in and just making this offense hum. Now, I don't want to completely underrate that if Kirk Cousins has anything left in the tank. Now, I don't think he has anything left in the tank is the problem. Is that he's had 2 good games in the last 4 years, basically. And they were all in just like random garbage time situations or against beat up secondaries or just random fluke games. He's otherwise has been dusty. He's old. And so I worry about him. But the rest of the offense, I think you make a case for. The offensive line's getting better. You have Brock Bowers, and you have Ashton Genty. And so you have legitimate talent here. Now the rest of the receiving core is pretty dusty,
It's like
but
Miami-esque.
yeah, Trey
It's a
Tucker,
little bit
Jack
better. It's a
Best,
little bit better than Miami, but they also Miami doesn't have Brock Bowers. But yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah. I mean, so but the wide receivers are just awful. It is really bad. So it's going to be a lot on Clint Kubiak. I just wouldn't be surprised. They're going to have to make a move at some point. And if they don't, then their bye is week 13. It looks like week 13 bye. I mean, I think they might win 2 or 3 games before then, and that might be it.
Do you think Max Crosby stays in this team?
I'm kind of surprised that he's still there, to be honest.
I am too.
I think that maybe they keep him around and then just trade him in the trade deadline instead. Just like kind of put him back out there and like, hey, look, guys, this guy's still here. He can be a difference maker. Because I think that his value kind of plummeted after the whole Baltimore thing, right? Because they traded him, sent him to they were going to sign him to a long-term contract, trade him for a bunch of picks, whatever. Baltimore reneged on it or whatever, I mean, whatever they want to call it. And then there was some weird animosity in the building. Obviously, he just got traded. The team just traded him, and so now I think he goes out there, he plays. I would be surprised if he's still there. Again, they're going to be 2-10 or whatever, like before they're going to be a terrible record before the trade deadline, and so I think that they're going to end up just dealing him before then. Maybe before the season. Still, to be honest, I wouldn't be that surprising, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's not long. For he's I think doing a good job of towing the company line, and I'm a Raider, and I'll always be a Raider, and like I'm excited about this football team, and I think he's like, I'm okay if you want to get me out of here. I think he sees the
Yeah,
writing on the wall. Like, it's a rebuild at best with what's going on with Mendoza and the rest of the talent on the offensive side. Like, someone will probably be willing. I mean, I feel like put a mic in front of Jerry Jones and he's telling us like, yeah, we're on a call with them today. Like, I want to go get him right now. Like, he's he's yeah, they could use him. It would actually be probably a pretty good trade. But yeah, I don't think he stays. It's probably right for them from a team building standpoint, because if you're, I know in the NFL you can kind of flip it pretty quickly, but if you're 2 3 years away from really competing in this division, I know Max Crosby's not 30 yet, but he's, do you want to be investing in him at 32 for the next, your next 2 3 year run? Probably not.
without Crosby, the defense looks pretty bad. I don't know what. I mean,
Yeah, Quiddy Pay is not able to stay. Has not stayed healthy. He came over from the Colts. Same thing. Malcolm Kuntz has been pretty good from like a per snap basis the last couple of years, but has not stayed healthy. Eric Stokes is okay at corner, but not great. They brought on Teron Johnson to play nickel. Maybe they're going to play some safety with him. I'm not sure. Like, I think Patrick Graham, we touched on this a little bit with the Steelers. I think Patrick Graham's pretty good at his job, and I think has been able for a couple of years to get more out of this defense than they've actually had on paper too. And I think that's probably why something I highlighted when we like the Steelers. I think that's a big boom for the Steelers defense. So Rob Leonard kind of staying in as an internal promotion. These guys always want to put their own thumbprint on and not necessarily just run back what worked. So, and they're different. They have different styles. So, how much can he just kind of turn the key for what's worked a little bit in past years versus what they have. Like spend a bunch of money at off-ball linebacker, like we touched on in the offseason. They brought in Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean. Maybe could have just spent money on one of them and grab the receiver, like spend some money somewhere else because he gave both of them a decent amount of money. Now they're both pretty good, but I don't know, not a great team building exercise. When you kind of have a hybrid, like linebacker and Jeremy Chin, and you got extra safeties. Like just looking at the roster, like you didn't need two linebackers, guys. Like I don't know,
No.
I don't know. I know linebacker play was pretty bad for them last year, but not a great team building exercise. But yeah, I worry about what Cousins and Mendoza have to protect them and to elevate them, after the catch, assuming the catch is made. That's a little bit tricky. So that's kind of why I think we made the Brock Bowers Offensive Player of the Year click, because it's like this dude could get 170 targets and catch 10 balls a game. And like, look, it's tough if the team's bad, but if you're that good, there's pass there,
Oh yeah, totally. So yeah, I'm interested to see how long Kirk stays in. To be honest, my expectations are pretty low. I would be surprised if he lasts more than, I don't know, let's call it 8 games. I think that's I think I'd be surprised if he lasts past the Rams in week 7. That would be pretty interesting to me. Because then they get the Jets and the Browns in 2 of the next 5 weeks. So, and then they get the bye. I don't know, it seems like a pretty good spot to put him in
probably a safe spot.
if you're picking in like a spot there. Now, maybe it happens earlier. Maybe they're just getting if they lose to Miami and they get the break speed off in the first 3 weeks, he's done. I mean, you got to put in Fernando, I think. I don't know though. We'll see how much influence Brady has, because maybe he doesn't want to toss him to the Wolves, but I think I don't know. I guess it just like doesn't happen that often where you're like, no, we need to protect him. We
It
can't
used
give
to
him
happen all the
reps.
time, right?
What
It
you
used
used
to
to,
happen all the
yeah,
time.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even that long ago. Mahomes sat, right? Like, Jordan Love sat. Before that, obviously Aaron Rodgers sat. It depends on the situation.
They had good teams though. Like they were good, like
It's true.
good veterans and good teams around them. And they were good teams. They weren't under the pressure of like losing, you
Yeah.
know? So I guess that's the difference is when there's no veteran presence to learn from that's good and the team sucks. I just don't feel like you don't see it that often because the fan bases get a little squirmy.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a fair thing. And a tougher schedule than you would think for a team that was last place and is comfortably the worst team in the division again. Like you'd want it to be easier if you wanted to make a path for, the case for over 5.5 or over 6.5 wins. Like, 5.5, you got to lay, to take the under. That's an under for me. I like under, or I think it's plus money on the 5.5, depending on which way you're going. But I like under 6.5 for sure. I don't know that I want to lay the juice in under 6.5, but this is not a 7-win football team.
It's going to get a little sweaty at the end because you got Titans and Cardinals in week 16, 17, and a Chiefs team in week 18 that, potentially could be a little weird if they're resting guys.
Sure.
So that is definitely going to be sweaty.
Yeah.
But now
But again,
that being,
when we do the Tennessee and the Arizona, right, we look at the Raiders. We're like, oh, they got the Raiders late in the year.
yep. Yeah,
So
I think that the Raiders are better than both those teams. Well, no, I think they're better than the Cardinals, probably close to the Titans.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So, and the Cardinals might just be, I mean, who knows by then? They're just a very strange team at this point. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Same layout basically as the Raiders, because it's just this three-headed monster in the division, and then you're just kind of left to figure the rest out. So, yeah, I think I don't know, say they're going to be picking early in the draft, and it seems to be a loaded early draft class from what we could tell. So good for the Raiders. They'll add some talent. So Denver for me, Connor. I could get sold on the Chargers. I would love to see the Chargers stay healthy, and let's just see what they could be. But as we sit here now, it's Denver to win this division for me. I think it's the best football team. Everything else is it's a little bit cleaner for me than the Chargers and the Chiefs.
yeah, I think I still have Chiefs as the best football team on paper, technically, but like by very minimal amounts. I like Denver though, odds wise. I think that the Chargers' upside is fun if things come together offensively. And then this Raiders team, pretty bad. Still have them right around their win total. Excited to see when Fernando comes in. Brock Bowers alts, I think, are really interesting. Probably a bunch of unders. Otherwise, I mean, again, Kirk might not throw the ball 20 times, and against Miami, they might just jam Genty, to be honest, the entire game. That game could just be real ugly. I'm not gonna lie, that might just be a slop fest of Malik Willis and Kirk Cousins dust balls. It's just gonna be awful.
Yeah, like projected plays for a game like that is really hard because you're like, you need some efficiency to like extend drives. Otherwise, it's just like overrun punts. Like, how do we exploit that in the betting markets? Because that's really tricky
It's bad.
stuff. Well, if they want to run the football, less plays, fewer plays makes the game burn faster. So maybe that comes
Yep.
in on the underside. So, all right, appreciate everyone hanging out as always. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel before you take off, no matter where you're listening. Again, Move the Line podcast, Move the Line on YouTube. We appreciate it. Again, head over to 4for4, look for the deals section. You can find ways to get access to everything that we're doing this year at 4for4 for significantly less than if you just go to 4for4.com/plans. If you just are generous and you just want to give us all of your money, just do that. 4for4.com/plans. Pay full price. We'll take it too. Get in the Discord, start chatting with us, get in there for the bets, turn on the notifications. More and more bets going to be fired off in there soon. Don't forget to check out what Circa has going on in the show notes. Thanks to Circa, as always. We'll be back again tomorrow, starting in the NFC. So for Connor, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.